Hello again, my wonderful fools. It is I, Mr. Maclunkey, back from another hiatus. I've had a few scrapped video ideas sitting in the Shadow Realm that is my DaVinci Resolve timeline. I've been kind of struggling to figure out what video I should put out next, and I feel like I always do my best work plagiarizing Egnards, and luckily for me, Egnards put out a modding video, which is a topic I've already kind of been preparing in the background for probably about a month or so at this point. Um, I also wanted to let you know that I did get a new microphone. So hopefully we should see some improvements in mic quality, but for now it's time to talk about mod quality. Before we do a dive into Egnard's mod filters, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about where mods come from. Insert your favorite sex ed joke here in the comments. Please keep it PG-13. Over here, so we see kind of the mod battles and the mod challenges. Now, typically, if you're first getting into this, I know Egnards made his guide for more of the end game player. He's currently sitting at 14.7 million galactic power. So I wanted to kind of make a mod guide for the rest of us, those of us sitting at 14.3 million and below. But once you're first getting into mods, you're probably wondering, well, how do I go about getting these? So you see over here, mod battles, mod challenges, very confusing, split amongst two. They went ahead and mixed all three of these into one. And over here, we've got these two separate like that. Very confusing. So when you first get in, you probably see these mod battles once you unlock them and think, oh, this is where I go to get mods. And realistically, no. Like, as you can see, the mod quality is measured in these kind of dots. And initially, you might be thinking, oh, like these are kind of lower tier mods and I can slice them up into higher tier mods. That is incorrect. The only mods in the game that matter are 5 dot and 6 dot mods. These lower tier mods will never be able to be upgraded into those higher tier mods. So essentially what you're doing with these battles is kind of working your way through. These are kind of a legacy or like bygone element of the game. These do not matter. You're mostly just battling through these battles to get to the end and move up to the next tier. Because in the final tier, the tier 9 here, this is where we get slicing mats. We'll dive a little bit deeper into slicing mats later. But I did just want to let you guys know, if you're first getting into modding, do not farm mods here whatsoever. All of these are junk in tier 1 through 8, but you do need to get up to tier 9 to get slicing mats. Where you want to obtain mods is in these mod challenges. So there is a mod challenge for each different mod type. You can kind of go in here. And again, one of the things to note is these lower tier ones offer you, again, garbage mods. So you do want to be able to get up to tier 3 to do these battles. Ignore tier 1 and tier 2. I think it is kind of a frustrating part of this. I mean, you only need 5-star characters to be able to go in and get that. But there are so many parts of the modding series that are kind of outdated, no longer relevant. And if you've been playing for a long time, you know about that. If not, you might get suckered into this kind of noob trap and wind up with these kind of Mark IV or Mark III mods. Only want these Mark V mods to eventually upgrade and slice into Mark VI. These other ones do not upgrade. So just ignore those. So that is kind of the main way of going and getting mods and saying, oh, I need a mod of a specific type. I need more offense mods. I need more crit damage mods, whatever it is. Hop in here, do the battles, grab the mod mats, and you're good. As well, there is a mod section of the store somewhere here. So the ones at the top cost the little, I don't know what the name of this currency is. There's so many currencies. Cost those things. Some of them cost fleet credits, some of them cost regular credits. And basically when you're looking in here, this is looking for, again, it's randomized, but you're getting a little bit more of a sneak preview of what you're buying as opposed to getting them from that mission where they're just purely randomized. And so with this, mostly you're wanting to look for things that have 5 speed, because speed is kind of the god stat when it comes to modding. So none of these have 5 speed, so I wouldn't even necessarily consider them. One thing to note is mods are color coded based on how upgraded they are. So things like this gray is kind of the least upgraded, which means a lot of the stats that are on this mod are hidden. Um, Things like this purple are more upgraded, so we get more of a sneak peek at what these things are, but we can't necessarily re-roll what these things are. So it's kind of a back and forth sort of balancing act of this idea of, well, do I want to buy something that gives me more information about what it's about? Or do I want to buy something that has more of a chance to kind of upgrade from where it is? I will say finding high speed numbers on a lower tier mod is worth more than finding high speed numbers on like a higher tier mod, just because it does give you more of a chance to upgrade and roll additional speed as you go. You can, speaking of new marquees, Partagaz is not out yet, but the first tier of every marquee does give you a chance to get a few mods that CG thinks will work well for that character. The community will usually play test after and come up with an idea of, well, what is actually the best mod set for this character. But it does give you a chance to get some free mods. I will say the first tier of all of these marquees does typically take the longest because they give you loner units that are usually a little bit more leveled up, as opposed to the very weak units that you start off with in some of the other tiers. And when you complete it, thankfully they've added that sim button too. So every day of the marquee, go in, do tier 1, sim it. It's usually pretty easy to just throw it on auto and get 3 stars. So just sim it every day and you'll get a handful of mods. Back in the old days, when we could use marquee units immediately, that would be a pretty big benefit because you would have mods, whether they were the right mods or good mods, hard to say, but you would have mods to put on a new character at least. Nowadays, we kind of get the mods from this event. They kind of sit around for a while. 6 months later, when we can actually apply mods to the character, then we need to kind of go and see, okay, what's the best fit. Also, in the events tab, there are a number of events. I missed the one that was here the other day for Smuggler's Run. There's 3 tiers of Smuggler's Run. Smuggler's Run 1 is the most accessible. 2 is kind of in the middle. 3 is more difficult in terms of accessibility for newer players. For tier 1, you really just need to have a solid smuggler team. And there's multiple different tiers to the Smuggler's Run 1. So you can go in with your smugglers team, and there's plenty of good smugglers in the game. You can basically use any of them, just kind of cobble together a team. And when you complete that, you'll get a bunch of mod slicing materials, you'll get a bunch of mods, and obviously the higher tiers of that event give you better rewards. Moving into Smuggler's Run 2, that's one where you will need to have Jabba unlocked. So you'll need to have Jabba. There's plenty of guides online too about how to complete that mission easily. Again, now that we are able to sim that event, it's a lot easier. That used to be a very long and tedious fight. It wasn't a particularly hard fight, but it did take quite a long time. And usually the computer could beat it on auto. Not always, which always sucked to kind of leave your phone sitting for like 5-10 minutes, come back and see, oh, the computer flubbed something, got some bad RNG. Whatever. There's guides. Usually you use Chewbacca in addition to kind of the usual Jabba setup. Go through, 3-star that event, and you can just sim it for the rest of your career. The next tier up from that, so like obviously Smuggler's Run 2, only one tier. You've got Jabba or you don't. You kind of run through, you get your better rewards. Number 3 is a little bit different. You have a a Relic 3 tier and a Relic 9 tier. You do need Hondo, Pirate King Hondo unlocked. And at that specific Relic level, if he's at Relic 3, you can do the first tier. If he's at Relic 9, you can do the second tier. That one is unique in the fact that you can run both if you have an R9 Hondo. Whereas like in the original Smuggler's Run 1, you just kind of have to pick the highest tier that you're able to run and get the rewards from there. So that is kind of a huge influx of mod mats there. And that's kind of how you get each of those different things there. So beyond that, I know Egnards graciously shared with us his slicing thing. And it's always a pain in the butt to get to the manage mods section of this game, but in the filter. So he graced us in his video with this big long list of mod filters. And these are fantastic filters if you are in the late game like him. But I wanted to show you how you can kind of use some of these in the earlier stages of the game before you get to that kind of Egnards level. So these are incredible detail oriented in a way that I could never devise. But when you're first starting off, something like this is overkill. So like this offense arrow, utility arrow, the try plus, and the defense primary sort of thing. Actually, these first three are a little bit more nitpicky than what you'd be looking at for the initial part. So I recommend keeping them on here because you will be able to eventually grow into this as your account gets better. But I would ignore these first three. These are a little bit nitpicky. Obviously, it is great to have mods, your offense arrows to have offensive type stats, your defensive sort of things to have defensive type. Defense percent primary. Generally, this is considered a bad stat, the defense percentage on a lot of these mods. So I would recommend taking a look at doing this, like selling off your defense primaries. Then he goes into reveal secondary. So with this, I would go through reveal secondary. You select all and you hit upgrade to reveal secondary. All of these mods are already upgraded, so I can't necessarily do that here. Next is the speedless cell. I do recommend doing that next. So like I said, skip the first three. Defense primary, yeah, do that. Reveal secondaries, yes. Speedless cell, yes. Gray sub 5 speed cell. I can see that one as well, being able to just clear those things out. Once you've cleared out like the speedless and the low tier mods, you can go in, take all of these things, level them up to level 12, which is usually the recommendation. A lot of the time, since I'm at a point in the game where I have an abundance of credits, I'll just throw them up to 15, see what I get, and then kind of go through. That is one thing I will say about modding, especially in the early game. It is very credit intense, which can make it very difficult to get into things there. So if you are struggling with mods, they can be expensive. Just know that eventually you'll reach a stabilization point with credits and be able to get done what you need to get done. But in the beginning, you want to make very cautious and focused sort of choices because it can be very credit intense. So, and especially in the beginning, you're trying to spend credits on training your units up to a certain level. So I do recommend being a little bit more cautious with some of this stuff. So next, he has his speed cell sort of thresholds. I would say maybe use the first speed cell from him just to sell things that are really low tier. Kind of his speed cell 2 and speed cell 3 filters. Those are maybe a little bit more intense. I would say these are kind of more optional if you're a newer player. The offense, no offense, and defense, no defense. These are, again, a little more nitpicky. In the early stages of the game, you are going to wind up with some mods that are kind of middle of the road, kind of dabbling sort of mods where it's, oh, maybe I have some defense stats on my offense thing. In SWGoH, ideally, you want your defensive characters to be all in on defense. It's very much like an MMO. The tank is going to be tanking. The DPS is going to be dealing damage. You don't need your DPS to be tanky because the tank should be taking most of the hits. You don't need your tank to be dealing damage because they are there just for that. So I will say these are things to look at. I wouldn't necessarily in the early phases of the game implement this kind of sell all sort of mindset, but I would think about it in terms of, okay, are these kind of my better mods or my worst mods? The flat stat cell, this I would agree with. In the game, obviously, the percentage abilities are much more impactful than the flat bonuses. So if you do have mods where literally you're just dealing with all flats, it's probably worth it to get rid of them. And then as well, I do have people that kind of ask me about how to go in and actually mod their roster. So I am going to switch over for just a minute here so that I can boot up Hot Utils. All right, I am signed into Hot Utils here. And so this is a premium subscription service. So if you are subscribed to Hot Utils, this makes modding a lot easier. You want to go in and refresh your data on the homepage here. That will log you out of the game on any of your clients that you're on. It just allows the game to log into, or allows Hot Utils to log into your game and kind of collect a bunch of data on things. So from there, what you're going to want to go over is to the mod section. And typically when I'm in the mod section, I'm only really messing with loadouts and with the playground. So if I go over into the playground, it'll kind of load in on a few things. I'm going to click reset all settings here just to get kind of the flat default sort of page. You'll see a bunch of your tunes. In here, obviously, if you're newer into the game, you'll have less tunes than kind of everybody. If you are modding into this for the first time, what I usually do recommend doing is going over to template, import loadout definitions. It'll take a minute to load. You want full squad loadout, which, pause real quick, side tangent. Going in here and looking for the raid mods, people will take the testing data from the raid server and create these mod templates. Absolutely fantastic for helping out with that kind of modding and getting that sort of stuff set up. But going kind of back to what we were doing, going into full loadout. So Strange releases this kind of Strange's meta. It doesn't necessarily get updated super often, but a lot of this is based on kind of aggregated data from the top tier guilds. So it's not always kind of the best or most accurate. A lot of the times it is out of date, but this is what I like to use just as my initial template. So you go through, open it up, and it will kind of reorder all of your characters. And so it based on the aggregated data, puts the highest performing characters at the top, the lowest performing characters down below. It will assign some priorities based on different stats. And just kind of handles a lot of that process. The other thing I like to do is like to hit add all. So this at the very bottom will go in and add in some of those characters that weren't a part of the template. So you'll see kind of the new conquest characters. You might see some of the new era characters kind of load in at the bottom. Downside is that messes with their priority. So you might have to kind of drag characters around. Basic view is better for dragging characters because like it's a lot more simple to do that versus here. Like you can drag character. I think you can drag them. No, never mind. You can't drag them on this stage, so never mind. But this gives you a more detailed view. Basic gives you more of the structured view. So once you have kind of characters organized the way that you want them to, then you would hit automate, and automate would kind of go through, assign mods based on that priority. What I'm going to do, since I've already tweaked some of this template a little bit for my liking, I'm going to go in here and actually open my old loadout. So my previous one was called Plastic Hand. So I can go in here and pull this in. And then I want to make sure that I add some of these other characters. Cobvanth obviously not going to do me too much. But someone like Satil, where I do have a higher priority for her, I can go ahead and pick up Satil and like throw her somewhere up higher. Some of these other characters, I guess I'd probably want to throw him next to Afra's other droids if I can find out where they are. But anyway, I'm not necessarily going to take all of the effort to go through and move all of these guys around. But once you have this kind of thing set up and you have the tunes where you want them, then you would go through and hit automate. I usually leave these settings as default. They do say specifically for this template not to mess with those settings. So you go through and it'll go in and scan and it'll detect all the mods that you have. from the data refresh. It'll go through and run the math, compare them to targets. If you're modding your entire roster at once, you're going to get a lot of error messages that pop up, especially if you are saying keep the full stat bonuses, which I like to keep the stat bonuses. So let's see. Don't have enough mods for diamond and triangle. Okay. So I've run that through, and now it should under advanced, or it's not under advanced, under review. This shows what I've got currently on and what it wants to change it to. So as you can see, it's kind of making a few adjustments here. If I hit push mods, it will go through and push the mods to game. And so you kind of have to wait a little bit for it to pop up and to process through. I am going to, if this takes too long, I will kind of pause the recording and cut back once it's done. Okay, got an error code. Not sure what that was for. So one of the things I usually end up having to do, because sometimes there's mod slot difficulties or things that don't quite work out, is use save as. So if I want to include all of my characters in the units, I can push to game here, or I can save it. So instead of plastic hand, I might just call this like golf egg. And then if I hit save, that will start to kind of create that loadout. Now, if I go into loadouts, I've got plastic hand and golf egg in here. So if I load golf egg, it will go through, create the mod task. Hopefully it doesn't error out. I don't know why it's getting that error, but we'll leave it a second here and see. All right, cool. So it'll go through, equip units on tunes, or equip mods on tunes. Like I said, this might take a while. I am going to go ahead and pause and then cut back in when we're closer to the end. Unpausing real quick to note, this cost down at the bottom here is the amount of credits it will take to remove and replace all of those mods. Like I said in the early game, this can be very credit intensive, so just be mindful about this. I'm at the point where I really don't have to worry about those credits, but I know for a lot of people, especially modding a whole roster, can definitely take a lot of credits. All right, so that did take a few minutes, but we are at 98%, 99, and done. And so it'll go kind of hover on this for a minute, just give it a second to finish up. And it'll refresh. So now I'm officially on this one. Some of the times when you go to do this, you will wind up with a mod set that can't be applied. I went through and cleared out a bunch of my mods using Egnards filters, so I'm not close to the mod cap, so it was pretty easy. If you ever do run into that problem, here, let me go ahead and delete plastic hand real quick, because we won't need that anymore. If you ever do run into that problem, you can use split, select loadout to split, golf egg, number of units per loadout. If you are really cramped on mod space, you are probably going to have to do a low number so that it creates a bunch of splits. If I go on here and just for the sake of it, I'm going to put 100 units so that it only makes 4 splits. It'll go through and load. And so it's going to generate golf egg 1, golf egg 2 out of 4, golf egg 3 out of 4, and golf egg 4 out of 4. So if this happens and it says, oh, you can't apply this one, you can go through and say, oh, but I can apply this one, or I can apply this one. And you just kind of go through and apply each of the individual splits until eventually your main one has enough space to load, and then you load that. You can delete all of your splits by going to this, click select all splits. I confirm that multiple will be deleted and delete. That won't delete your main loadout, but it'll clear up this space and make it look pretty. That helps when you have to make like 20 splits. But then you're pretty much good. You're all set with this. So this is what I mostly do, is go on the hot utils side, fiddle around a little bit, create my own sort of template. And then each successive template is kind of based off the last one with like a few tweaks or edits there. So we've got that. I am going to switch back over to the game to show you, or You know what? There's one other option we have for automation. I'm going to switch to the game first, and then I'll come back and show the other option for automation. All right, I am back in game here, and I was going to kind of take a look and see. So if we don't, oh, I got to reload. Anytime you log into Hot Utils, it'll kick you out. So refreshing the game, getting kind of signed back in. I'm going to show you what is one of your options to do if you don't have um, hot utils. So I would recommend going over to the squads thing, and I did create one for the mod guide here. So what I typically would recommend for this is just say, hey, let's start with your Galactic Legends teams. You want to tick this box for unique only, which will help you as you're going through and creating these. But you want to create these templates and basically say, hey, this is the squad that I want to use. If you do have Galactic Legends, definitely Galactic Legends at the top. If you don't have Galactic Legends, what are your strongest teams? Is it CLS? Is it Phoenix? Is it Imperial Troopers? Whatever it is, at whatever stage you are in the game, you'll go through and create all of these teams. So I could go in and create a squad. And because I have unique only ticked, I'm not going to have all of this sort of stuff. So I would want to go in Rebel. What Rebels? So I know for me personally, a lot of the time, I mean, Drogon and R2 are a given. I do oftentimes wind up running this comp to try and cheese a few things. I'm at the point where I don't necessarily need to use these as their own squad. I can kind of lump them in with this. But if not, whatever it is, I can kind of create this squad and have this there. And you just want to do that a bunch of times. So like I've given kind of a few examples of what you're wanting to do. And this kind of helps you organize some of these things. So even with some of this, like Lord Vader and Clones is the 5v5 squad. Tarkin in 3v3, he takes custody of half of the clones. So one of the things you might want to do is also include and say, you know what, Tarkin is a part of this. This is basically a 6-man team for the 3v3 splits. Whatever it ends up being. Or sometimes you might want to break it up like this and create two different versions of a team. Like, are you running the old school Starkiller team in GAC? Kenobi, a lot of the time, is preferred unit, whereas Juhani with the Omicron, I don't have it, is preferred in Territory War. And this typically, you'll see the little exclamation points because these are not unique. If you do want to create those sort of splits, toggle unique off for a second, create the other team using the duplicate units. After you save it, go back to switch it to unique only. And so basically you'll go through and create like all of these strong teams. And then at the bottom, you're probably going to have some filler teams. Like this is not a team at my stage of the game that I'd ever really be using at this point. And so you have to kind of consider in terms of modding, is this a high priority team or not? And honestly, it probably isn't. So I think I would probably go through and just delete this. Leia, very good team. So I would probably want to go through and put Leia up a little higher in the order, probably higher than JML. And basically similar to how in Hot Utils, you would kind of drag the units around. That's what you're doing here. And then, so for each of these, I would say, okay, this is kind of my best team. I can click this show mods thing and get a sense of where they're at. And then I would want to pick an individual unit, and I am going to switch once again so that I can see both my SWGoH and my web browser real quick. All right, there we go. I've kind of popped this window out. So if I was going through and saying, yep, Supreme Pirate guy is my best team, I would want to start, obviously, your key units, which in this case, Hondo. Your GL is always going to be a key unit. And then after that, the rest of your team, because these units aren't acting on their own. They are a part of a team. So I would go into here and I would want to go to characters and search Pirate King Hondo. Go ahead and pull him up. And then I can go to best mods. So they also aggregate kind of the mod data here. And so what we're seeing, most people tend to run speed and health. Some people are running the triple defense. And basically some of these things like speed set for of the things. So like here, let me see. So it takes 4 speed mods to get the bonus, the set bonus. Whereas something like health, it only takes 2. Some mods are 1, some mods are the other. But I would say if you're kind of very first early getting into modding, you're going to want to start with some of the easier sort of parts. So you're going to want to pay attention to the mod type, which is just the symbol here, and mostly the primary and then speed. So those are going to be your kind of top priorities here. And a lot of the other secondary stats become a little bit more important kind of the deeper you get into things. So with this, it's saying 4 speed mods, 2 health mods. So what I would do, I would go into here, filter, and I would probably want to do unassigned mods. That way I'm not looking at things that are equipped to other units. I would go health and speed. And I am looking for things with speed, but I would probably just do this at first, filter mods, and then I would sort by speed in order to get some. So like obviously I've got the Hondo mods that I want on Hondo. But if I didn't, I would go and click here and see, okay, so of my unassigned mods, what has the highest speed category? Of this one, which has the highest speed. And I'm wanting to make sure that I find 2 health and 4 speed, which are kind of my best of the best out of that. And the secondary stat focus, this does tell you what are some of the secondary stats to look for. If you are at the point where you can be a little bit more picky and choosy, I would say, yeah, absolutely pay attention to some of these things. But if you are starting out, just make sure you've got the right sets. Make sure you're kind of maximizing that primary, and then as well getting as high of speed as you can on your important characters. So with this, they say you're wanting to look for a speed arrow. You're wanting to look for health on your triangle, health on your circle, health on your cross. So if you are able to find those things, absolutely perfect. If not, then it doesn't necessarily matter in the beginning of the game. Once you get later into the game, you can use those automated filters, or you can kind of just run through this kind of data and go through and go. So once I have all of the things that I want on Hondo, commit the changes and then go back. And then I would recommend first things first, all of your best mods should be going on your GLs first. After your GLs have their mods, then I would say, well, what are the members of the teams that you're using the GLs with? Get them bumped up as well. After that, okay, let's pop in. Let's take a look at some of the non-GL teams that are particularly good. I know in the early game, the example I used, Starkiller, tends to be a very good non-GL team in that early game. Go through and get them set. And just kind of repeat the pattern, going through and creating squads. Obviously, if you don't have every toon unlocked, it's a lot easier to create squads for every unit that you have. And realistically, when you get to the units at the end, let me see, as an example, like I'm not necessarily going to put great mods on Resistant Pilot. They're more of a filler unit. I don't think I've ever really used them in game outside of maybe an event, and even then I don't know if they're necessarily in an event. It is a good idea if you have the credits to apply junk mods to junk characters, because that will artificially boost your GP, which helps for things like GAC tiebreakers. It helps for things like Rise of the Empire or territory battle missions, having that higher GP to be able to commit to a zone. That's one thing I'll recommend. I'll also recommend taking a look at your fleet captains. So mods, as you kind of upgrade and slice them, let me grab kind of a lower tier mod. I don't want to equip those, so let me find someone who's got a weaker mod on. Probably go over to here. So if you go into here and enhance, these are those mod mats that you can earn from those mod battles. These are kind of the different stats. If you slice a mod, you go through and get an upgrade. If you have a gold 5-dot mod, when you slice it, it becomes a, I don't know, like a light blue. I don't know what to call that. Gray, I think people usually call it. But it almost has like a blue tint to me. But it becomes a 6-dot mod. And then you can kind of continue as you go, rolling it into the higher tiers here. But what's important is 6-dot mods offer a larger speed boost to fleets then 5.mods. So anyone who has a ship, usually it's recommended, especially on the fleet that you're using for Fleet Arena, apply six dot mods to that fleet. So if I go in here to, I'm probably going to want to take a look at Sith because I'm using Leviathan. If I was using something like Executor, I could probably go into Bounty Hunter and go and see, okay, which of my Bounty Hunters have ships. Especially you want the person who is your capital ship leader, and then as well kind of your starting lineup people, those kind of first or second reinforcement, those types you're going to want to make sure that they're all upgraded. So if you go in here, he's got 6 dots. Dengar, I need to go in and upgrade these because he is not all at 6-star. Boba is, etc. You just want to make sure your pilots, at least for your meta fleet that you're running in Fleet Arena, that you have those 6 dot mods. Let's see, where was I? We've got the fleet mods, applying junk mods to junk tunes. Yeah, so this is kind of the way I would do it if I was first starting out. One other option that you have as a free to play is something called Grand Ivory. Let me switch over to that real quick. Ignore my terrible spelling. It's Grand Ivory SWGoH. So the mod organizer here, this is generally considered to be outdated. And so with this, you can hit fetch my data or fetch with hot utils. If you have hot utils, it's generally recommended to just use the hot utils thing rather than integrating it with this. But when you fetch data with this, it is only collecting information on the mods that you actually have equipped. And it's ignoring all of the mods because they can't see it without hot utils. See those extra mods. But this is one thing that you could do is go through clear. You can add all of these guys in. You can kind of auto generate a list, go through and say, yeah, I want kind of this default sort of thing. You can go in and say Omicron. So like, do I care about Grand Arena? And if you click that, Grand Arena characters that have Omicrons applied will go up in the tier list. Territory wars I don't really care about, so that goes down. Territory battles I do. Raid Omicrons, not really as much of a thing. Conquest Omicrons, you can tick whatever boxes you want. Kind of go through and say all characters. You can do a minimum gear and say, hey, like if I don't want to include all of these characters that aren't at gear 13, whatever it is, and hit generate. And this will go through, and out of the mods that you have equipped to units, it'll create a list. You can also go in and say, oh, I like my Jabba more than Lord Vader or whatever, and kind of reorganize and rearrange that there. If you hit optimize mods, it'll kind of run through this whole list in order, and it will figure out what mods are going. Again, this is not as strong of an algorithm, people say, as the one in hot utils. But this is one that you can use to fetch the data. And again, it's limited. It's only looking at mods that are currently equipped to tunes and not looking at everything that's in your kind of pocket like a hot utils would. But this is another option if you are just wanting to do kind of a quick and dirty optimization and see. And like, obviously, this is different than what hot utils recommended. And I do think hot utils is the better one to do. But something like this goes through quick and easy, and it's saying, oh, these would be good ones to put on Ahsoka. These are who they're equipped to currently in the little bubble. And without being able to kind of automatically do those things, I can go on and say, okay, let me grab like a screen cap of this, or I can go in to my character here and grab Glat, go through in the mods, and I can say, oh, so this is shield sort of mod that I'm looking for in this category filter. And then I can see, okay, the one that's currently equipped to him. Then I can hit assign if I wanted to do that. So in this case, I don't. I want to use my hot utils settings, but this is another option. I think not necessarily as good of an option, but definitely something that you could make use of if you don't have hot utils. I think that about wraps it up for kind of my initial early game mod guide. Thank you so much, Egnards, for covering the late game and giving me the opportunity to swoop in here and help out some of us a little bit less fortunate. Obviously, beggars canyons can't be choosers canyons, so we kind of take what we can get when it comes to mods and do the upgrades we need to along the way. When it comes to the mods that you want to upgrade, I know one thing Egnards had mentioned in his video that I think is still applicable. What am I looking for? Manage mods. One of the things that I think is still applicable is going into his little speed check thing and then sorting by speed. Obviously, your higher speed mods are the ones you're probably going to be wanting to work on more so than the lower speed ones. So just kind of going in and saying, okay, let's take a look. These are the ones that I don't have assigned. I can go ahead and untick those. Take a look at these. These are ones that I do have assigned. And so looking at this, I already have all of my rerolls done for speed. This one I don't. So I could spend some of these attenuators and calibrate the mod, go in and kind of switch one of these sort of things around. But it all comes down to where you're at in the game, what you have the capacity for, being kind of mindful about credits and where those need to go, and just kind of slowly amassing a nice collection of mods and slowly getting those mods over to where they need to be. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Hopefully there won't be as big of a delay this time. Bye.